Hey, I'm Charles Hoffman from Black Ghost Audio, making a guest appearance on the Sonicscopp YouTube channel. Today, we're taking a look at how to increase the loudness potential of your music while mixing, so when you finally hit the mastering stage of the production process, you'll be able to apply a limiter, bump up the input gain, and end up with a competitively loud final product. I'll be showing you how to do this using SSL's X-Limit limiter, which is intended for individual tracks and submixes, but you can also use it while mastering. Solid State Logic is sponsoring this video, so a big thank you to them for making this tutorial possible. Take a listen to the before and after version of this mix. The after version is going to sound significantly louder.
I hate the way you look at me, those eyes so tender, soft and sweet. I hate the way you say my name, yeah, it will never sound the same. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love with you. And I hate the way you look at me, with those eyes so tender, soft and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name, yeah, it will never sound the same. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love with you.
So, what's causing the second version to sound so much louder? Well, a significant amount of gain reduction has been applied to my individual tracks and submixes. What this allows me to do is tightly mix track levels. It prevents momentary peaks from occurring and causing the limiter on my stereo bus to distort prematurely. The goal is to avoid as much strain on my stereo bus limiter as possible by controlling dynamic range at an individual track level and then a submix level. We have SSL's X-Limit, a part of this vocal chain, and I'm using this as a safety net to catch whatever peaks manage to slip through my compressor and saturator. During the phrase, "and I hate the way you say my name," the word "I" is significantly louder than the other words around it. It sort of jumps out at you, which is what we're trying to avoid.
And I hate the way you say my name.
To fix this issue, I'm going to enable X-Limit and drop the threshold level down until I see a consistent 1 to 2 decibels of limiting being applied.
And I hate the way you look at me, with those eyes so tender, soft and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name, yeah, it will never sound the same. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love with you. And I hate the way you say my name. And I hate the way you say my name.
On the word that's too loud, you can see more gain reduction is being applied, and that's perfect. One of the benefits of this limiter is that it lets you drop the threshold level instead of being forced to drive the signal into the threshold to apply limiting. You have the option to do that, but it's not mandatory, and this is what makes it a great limiter for individual tracks and submixes. You can tame transients and reduce dynamic range without increasing loudness and throwing off the balance of your mix. We can dial in the settings some more and tighten things up by adjusting a few parameters. There's various limiting algorithms to choose from. We have auto, transparent, glue, and punch mode, all of which affect the character of the limiter under the hood. Depending on the material you're processing, one of these will be more suitable than the others. Just cycle through them to find the one you like best.
And I hate the way you look at me, with those eyes so tender, soft and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name, yeah, it will never sound the same. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love with you.
I like how transparent sounds, so I'm going to stick with that. The release knob controls how quickly X-Limit backs off the amount of gain reduction applied. Small values result in a more responsive form of limiting that can sound non-musical, while large values can lead to unwanted pumping effects. You want to aim for a happy medium. Look at the gain reduction chart as I turn the knob.
And I hate the way you look at me with those eyes so tender, soft, and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name. Yeah, it will never sound the same. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love with you.
To make dialing in your release time a little easier, you can engage the in-out difference listen button, which lets you audition the difference between the input and output signals.
I hate the way you look at me with those eyes so tender, soft, and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name. Yeah, it will never sound the same. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love with you.
The release time sounds good to me, around 130 milliseconds, so that's where I'm going to leave it. You can also give auto release a try. This overrides the release value you've set and dynamically responds to incoming audio signals. Peaks in the signal result in a short release time, while sustained material results in a longer release time.
And I hate the way you look at me with those eyes so tender, soft, and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name. Yeah, it will never sound the same.
Look Ahead introduces a delay to your project, giving X-Limit more time to adequately react to incoming audio material. Causes limiting to occur slightly before the signal breaches the limiter's threshold level, reducing artifacts and unwanted distortion. For delicate audio material like vocals, you'll probably want to engage the Look Ahead button. When you heavily compress a sound, you can sometimes lose top end, so I'm just bringing a little bit of that glossiness and airiness back with a high shelf filter. It's subtle, but it does make a difference.
And I hate the way you look at me with those eyes so tender, soft, and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name. Yeah, it will never sound the same.
Let's take a look at the drum bus to see how X-Limit is being used there. You can hear that the drums sound pretty lively, almost like raw recordings captured in a live room. The drums are really dynamic and they don't have that polished, processed sound yet. I'm going to add a compressor to gently round out some of these peaks and glue my drums together. After that, I'm going to apply X-Limit and crush my drums with limiting. 12 decibels of gain reduction should do the trick. Obviously this doesn't sound good, but I'm going to mix this heavily limited signal with the dry input signal by adjusting the mix knob. At 50%, I have a half and half blend between the dry and wet signals, creating a type of parallel compression effect. I'm applying a utility so that I can show you a level matched A/B comparison. Listen to how all the drums feel really tight and cohesive now, but still punchy. My guitars are pretty consistent in level, so I don't need to compress them. If you take a look at the peak meter on my guitar bus, drum bus, and vocal track, you'll notice that each signal is tightly controlled. The max peak value isn't hopping all over the place. It's now easy to set the level of the guitars, drums, and vocal relative to one another. You won't have certain words or drums jumping out of the mix and throwing it off balance. When you control your tracks using compression and limiting, you can set extremely tight track levels, leading to increased loudness potential. X-Limit is intended for individual tracks and submixes, but you can apply it to your stereo bus as well. It will work as a mastering limiter. To pull this off, start by setting the threshold and ceiling of the limiter to around -2 to 3 decibels if you're planning to upload your song to streaming services. Extremely loud songs typically need this much headroom to avoid distorting when they undergo the process of transcoding when uploaded to different streaming services. Now you can turn up the input gain to increase the loudness of your song.
I hate the way you look at me, with those eyes so tender, soft and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name. Yeah, it will never sound the same. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love with you.
The channel link knob allows you to apply limiting separately to both the left and right channel. By default, channel linking is set to 100%, so if there's a peak in the left channel that engages compression, it will cause the right channel to be compressed by the same amount. This ducking meter indicates how much unnecessary limiting of the quieter channel is taking place when your channels are fully linked.
I hate the way you look at me, with those eyes so tender, soft and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name. Yeah, it will never sound the same.
If you set channel linking to 0%, peaks in the left channel don't trigger compression on the right channel, or vice versa. With the channels unlinked, you can achieve a higher level of perceived loudness, but the issue is that when your channels are unlinked, your stereo image can steer left or right, as indicated by this meter, and make your mix feel lopsided.
And I hate the way you look at me, with those eyes so tender, soft and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name. Yeah, it will never sound the same.
This mix is relatively balanced from left to right, unlike an orchestral track which might have horns pan to the left, strings to the right, etc. In a situation like that, you may want to unlink the channels, but in this context, you won't hear much of a difference when I link or unlink the left and right channel.
And I hate the way you look at me, with those eyes so tender, soft and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name. Yeah, it will never sound the same.
Using an LUFS meter, you can see that the integrated loudness is around -7, which is extremely loud. Anything above -6 is sort of ridiculous and doesn't tend to sound great, even with heavily compressed genres like rock and EDM. You begin to lose the punch of your drums, and other elements in your mix start to get buried. Around -9 to -6, your mix is going to sound commercially loud, glued together, and hopefully free of distortion if you apply the tips I've showed you. If you're yelling at the screen saying you're supposed to master your music to -14 LUFS, you can, but you don't have to. More accurately, you're often meant to master your music to at least -14 LUFS. Songs that are louder than -14 LUFS will get brought down in level by streaming services to an appropriate loudness. So if you like how your dense song sounds at a higher LUFS value, master it to that louder level. It's perfectly fine. At the top of X-Limit, there's a momentary true peak meter and max true peak meter. The values are reading out at the same level, which is an indication that the song has a small dynamic range. You've also got a live true peak output meter, so you can visualize the peak level of your mixes. If for some reason you don't want to use X-Limit in true peak mode, you can toggle this feature off by clicking the true peak button. In most cases, you'll want to keep it enabled when mastering because it will prevent intersample peaks from clipping when they run through your audio interface's DA converter. There's a handful of limiter presets that you can use. If you want to load one of these as a starting point, it can definitely help speed things along, but I definitely recommend dialing in the settings to taste for best results. It's also possible to A/B different presets and save your own presets. Let's take a listen to the final product.
And I hate the way you look at me, with those eyes so tender, soft and sweet. And I hate the way you say my name. Yeah, it will never sound the same. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love. I thought that this was just some stupid crush. Turns out that I'm falling in love with you.
If this video helped you out, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the Sonicscopp YouTube channel below for more music production tutorials like this. Again, a big thank you to Solid State Logic for making this video possible. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.